Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to a sneaky peek at Age of Hell. Sorry, The Age of Hell. Very important to get the full title in there. Anyway, this is a demo for an upcoming total conversion, one that replaces the weapon roster, the enemy roster, and presents these vast, uber-detailed levels for you to just carve your way through. It's due to make its official debut at Realms Deep, which should hopefully be shortly after I publish this video, and right here, right now, I've got the wonderful opportunity to blast through it myself. So, without further ado, let's dive in, shall we? One of the first things that'll probably hit you about Age of Hell during the course of this demo is not just the visuals, but the deafening loudness of this starting pistol, which functionally shares quite a lot with its vanilla Doom brethren. It's just that when it comes to the acoustics, it sounds like it should be punching holes straight through walls, let alone demon heads. In that regard, it does a fine job. You'll note that sprites here can be dismembered, torn asunder, and when you get the shotgun, flat out split in half. It's a wonderful touch, one that certainly brings a smile to my face, but I'd certainly be remiss if I didn't mention how delightfully blinged out this shotgun right here is. You see, the Sanctifier isn't just gold-plated, it's also triple crucifixed. And if you look closer, you'll also note that the gold plating has a degree of reflection to it, which is just an insanely wonderful touch. Complementing the faster than usual primary fire, we've also got an incendiary secondary, which, if not outright turning an enemy to ash, will cause them to suffer continuous fire damage. Handy if you're dealing with a particularly troublesome enemy, as it essentially stun locks them for the duration. The Dawnbreaker, sorry, I just had to pause for that deliciously dirty laugh, is a great big sod-off hammer. Its primary features a 3-hit combo swing, whereas its secondary can be charged in order to throw it directly at enemies' faces. Not to mention delivering an incendiary hit all of its own. If there's one aspect of the hammer, however, that I feel could greatly improve the satisfaction of using it, it would be a little bit more beefiness with regards to the impact feedback. Same goes for the Sanctifier. When you compare it to the likes of the starting pistol, they just don't have quite as much punch. I want to hear the impact of those bullets as they penetrate flesh, the sound of bones crunching and faces smashing as my hammer rains down upon infernal heads. Speaking of infernal heads, the enemy roster here features an interesting mix. There'll be a few where you can easily spot the analog between the original Doom 2 roster and this, but a few of them in here feature some fascinating tweaks. Taking it from the lower end of the available roster, you've got the zombies, which can only really harm you if you get within melee range. Those are swapped out from the former humans. You've got varieties of zombie with gun arms, which I imagine are swapped out from shotgunners. And we've got spiky lizard dog type things, which I imagine are swapped out from pinkies, and regrettably are not really all that pettable. Machine gunners are swapped out for these fellas, which don't really function all that different from the douchebag originals. Imps, kinda the same, you can see them in the rafters up here. And then we've got revenants, which are actually suffering in this form because they've only got one shoulder cannon. Still, they're just as annoying when it comes to firing homing projectiles, so, fuck them. Things start to diverge a little interestingly around the Mancubus Arachnotron category. As you can see here, it's more of a hybrid between the two. You've got the Arachnotron lower, and then you've got the Fat Boy Flame Cannon upper. While I'm at it, might as well mention the Caco, largely a visual change. Looks like what happens when a predator has coitus with a meatball. As for the Mancubus category, I'm tempted to say that these fellas fit the bill. They will vomit green bile at you, which is delightful, and upon death will leave behind a poisonous cloud, which will damage you should you come in contact with it, but fortunately can also damage nearby enemies. So an interesting bit of potential utility there when it comes to dealing with crowds. Speaking of crowds, that largely defines the style of combat encounter you should come to expect from Age of Hell. It certainly leans a little bit more slaughtery in its design, but it also seems to want to leverage this to encourage you to switch weapons a little bit more often and not maybe waste your more beefy stuff against smaller fry. For example, there are absolute swarms of zombies throughout the course of this. Those are usually best served with either the pistol or the hammer, or even better by jockeying them into position around explodable objects such as whatever the heck that thing is. I have to say though, one of the most surprising enemy types I came across was a fusion between the two. The Imp And the spiky dog. It's just cool as all heck. While riding, the imp can throw an axe at you, and personally, all I can imagine is what the vanilla form of this would look like. Because don't tell me you don't want to see a standard imp riding a standard pinky. That needs to be made a thing, like, right this second. In the midst of combat, however, it is all too easy to overlook some of the more fantastic environmental details here. I mean, if we just whirl this back a bit slightly, look at that! Holy shit, isn't that great? I mean, I can take a guess as to how the other bits of cascading water from the ceiling are done, but that? With rain? That effect? Nope, that's going to be a hard reset for my brain there, Chief. Further to that, we've got the lighting, which I think I can safely say all round is pretty damn nice, but a little extra detail that I only noticed on reviewing the footage and just caused my eyes to glaze over from the effort that must have been required was the fact that you've got lighting effects from the water casting on the walls here. It's so subtle, so unnecessary, and I just love it. Oh, I'm sorry, did someone say Daka? Oh wait, you want more Daka? Don't mind if I do. Yep, I can safely say this is right up there when it comes to satisfying chain guns in Doom mods. I mean, it does the Daka, it does it well, and that alt fire is just everything amped up to 11. And then there's the design. It is gloriously chunky looking, and in general, I am just totally in love with the Crusader-tinged aesthetic that runs through the weaponry of Age of Hell. It's probably worth mentioning that the degree to how often you can use the alt fires on these varied weapons isn't solely down to how much ammo you've got left, but also how much mana you've got left. If you're wondering where that's located on the HUD, it's next to the health and the armor, and then that little vial to the side that will fill with green over a certain period of time. Fill it to the top, you can unleash a sustained period of Daka with something like the chain gun. And as for when you can trigger it, I think it's from halfway full onwards, and quite frankly, it's not as readable as I'd like it to be, but all the same, an interesting mechanic that ensures you don't lean too much on the ults too often, because, of course, if you had access to Uber Fire mode on the chain gun, of course you'd use it all the goddamn time. Instead, here, you're forced to be a little bit more strategic with your deployments. Case in point, this right here is a fantastic situation to apply all of the enhanced Daka. This fella throws exploding hammers in your general direction. Pretty sure he's a swap out for the Cyber Demon, and boy, does he take a lot of bullets to bring down. That said, if you find yourself lacking in the bullet department, you can always do what I did here, get him up against the wall or surface, and eventually get him to kill himself with the splash damage from his own explosive hammers, because haha, he's a big fat idiot that doesn't know how to handle explodey stuff. From here on out, the map essentially takes the training wheels off, and once you drop down from this bridge, you should know that the only thing that awaits you is pure, unmitigated carnage. But guess what? You also get access to the Hammersphere, which amps up your Dawnbreaker and just lets you go absolutely ham, which, quite frankly, you'll need to do considering the sheer overwhelming number of cacos in this area. And as much as I'd love to tell you what exactly is going on with the Hammersphere here, truth is, it's a little hard to figure out amidst all the chaos, but at the very least, the 3-hit primary combo seems to land its final hit with an area of effect fire attack. The secondary now also sends a string of fire across the ground, as well as, I guess, still being able to throw things into faces, and every hit that you land with it also refuels your health. So, all in all, pretty goddamn handy. But as with all power-ups, eventually it will expire, leaving you to mop up the rest with your available weaponry. And honestly, this area is probably the second toughest area in this demo. Main reason for that being that it is quite open. You've got a lot of angles of attack, and you'll be dodging projectiles from enemies that you, in all likelihood, will not have spotted yet. Mercifully, as you wind your way through the carnage of this area, you'll also be able to acquire the rocket launcher. And much like the chain gun, it features a very pleasing degree of chunkiness. I love the firing animation on this thing. I love the way the barrels spin. I need one in my life. I'll take your entire stock. In fact, the only downside I can really think of besides the splash damage is the fact there isn't enough rockets in the immediate area here to sate my raging explosive-based bloodlust. And that's a shame, considering the guy guarding the gold key here is, yes, another big fat splody hammer guy. I mean, it could be that there isn't quite enough ammunition, or it could just be that I'm really bad at ammo conservation. Both of these things are likely. Gold key opens the gold door, and wouldn't you know it, a whole bunch more things to kill. After that, you majestically hop across a bunch of... oh, god damn it. After that, you majestically hop across a bunch of hovering platforms, grab a much-needed Templar sphere that recovers all health and all armor, whack a bell, and then find yourself facing the exit to this area. This will lead you into a rather majestic-looking hallway with a portal at the opposite end, and in all honesty, I thought that this would mark the end of the level. I thought wrong. Passing through the portal will take you to the final challenge of Age of Hell's demo map. This is a full-on arena encounter featuring everything you'll possibly need. Ammunition, power-ups, armor, health. It's just that, you know, there's that whole thing about surviving. And boy, does it feel like survival, because this is a flat-out onslaught of enemies. Mercifully, you'll be able to deal with the first wave with a pentasphere, which I'm reasonably sure multiplies your damage. Not entirely sure by a factor of what, but at the very least, it still makes short work of these initial enemies. But all you need to do is a quick look up to realize that you're going to be rapidly encroached upon by cacos. This is where it's usually a good idea to start, you know, moving a bit more around the arena. And there is a bit more to do here. There's jump pads, there's various upper platforms containing much more useful bits of resupply, and, of course, extra power-ups. You'll be able to find the Templar sphere, which you will definitely need during the course of this fight, and you'll also be able to find an additional pentasphere, which, all honesty, you're going to want to save for the more final sections of this, because if you thought this swarm of cacos was bad, then... So this is where they've been hiding all the pain elementals. Seriously, I'm endlessly surprised that I didn't die at any point during this final encounter. Sure, I was playing on Hurt Me Plenty, but don't let that deceive you. It's still hard as nails. Seriously, you're gonna have to leverage everything you have at this point, including the dash, which I realize I haven't talked about up until this point because I was kind of in denial about using it up until the final few sections of this map. It is quite useful for getting yourself out of a pinch. As is the alt fire for the Trinity launcher, which unfortunately I don't have any meaningful footage of. You're just going to have to trust me that the alt fire is great because it lets you load up to 3 additional rockets and launch them all at the same time into something's face. Anyway, top tip for this final section, don't worry too much about killing absolutely everything in this arena. You don't need to prove your worth that hard. Instead, it's best to just focus your fire on the Well of Souls in the middle and dedicate the rest of your maneuvering to avoiding too many projectiles to the noggin. All in all, though, I can't help but be seriously impressed by what's available here from Age of Hell. I just have to keep reminding myself, this is but one map, and if this one map is any indication of what's to come, then the full Age of Hell experience is going to be one heck of a ride. Big thanks to Bridgeburner for giving me the opportunity to check this out. I've had my eyes on this project for a while, and it has been a real pleasure to finally give it a whirl for myself. I am tremendously impressed by what they've been able to pull off here. The visuals are absolutely astonishing, the level of detail is ridiculous, and the fact that it runs relatively smoothly is shocking to me. I was fully expecting this to just grind my version of GZ Doom to a halt, but no, it remained really smooth all the way through, no matter how much carnage was unfolding, and that certainly must be testament to the talent behind Age of Hell. If you're interested in checking out this demo for yourself, it should be debuting during the course of Realms Deep, and just for good measure, I'll leave a link to the Doom World thread, just in case it turns up there, in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to let me know what you're looking forward to seeing during this year's Realms Deep. But until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.